guys, so in this vlog, this is why the Mustang's first cross-country school. It kind of demonstrates how I like to start my young horses with their first cross-country, and how I generally like to have it is I make sure that I have a more experienced horse. So I had Wynn with my working student there, Megan. So Wynn kind of had a double job. She had to help teach the baby horse and teach the student. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to get kind of the video in the very beginning. So how I like to start them off is over very small, very introductory fences, and I would follow. So using the herd instinct, and it's typically of monkey see, monkey do. So Wynn would jump the small jumps, and we typically do it at either a walk or a trot, keeping it very relaxed, very calm, on a nice loose rein, and just getting them to build up the confidence and start to understand that it's not something that's scary. And Y in this case did a really good job of seeing what Wynn would do, and then he would kind of figure it out on his own. And once he kind of figured it out, he was really sharp and really quick, and he seemed to really enjoy it. Now, in our sport, we have several different levels. So from the smallest, the tiniest of tiniest, we have the amoeba, and then it goes tadpole, beginner, novice, novice, training, prelim, intermediate, and advanced. And I know I've been asked lots of times how, when I'm on course, do I know where I'm going? Well, and what jumps to jump. So all of our jumps in the levels are kind of mapped with their own colors. So for instance, advanced is white numbers on blue background, and say novice is black numbers on a white background. So that's how you can kind of tell which levels, and we're also given a map, and we walk the course before. And so this was a really great day. Y was around 50 rides at this point. And he did pretty good, all things considered. He hasn't been off property in a while, and there were a lot of groups of people there. So in the beginning, he was a little nervous. We had some interesting baby moments in our warm-up, where he did have a little bit of a bucking session, but luckily everything turned out fine. He worked through it, and then he ended up really progressing throughout the day, and he seemed to really enjoy it. The other thing that I really find important that in teaching my horses cross country is making sure that they have their own responsibility in coming through the fence. So we do work as a partnership. It is my job to have my horse in the correct balance, correct speed, but also the other part of that is the horse has to take some responsibility getting us out of sticky situations and not jumping from necessarily the perfect distance. So you'll definitely see that in this video. You'll see Y kind of figuring out his feet and figuring out how to answer all the questions that are given to us on cross country. We got the Stings out in force and the thoroughbreds out. So here is kind of in the middle part of our session where I am jumping a little bit bigger fences. Now I didn't start off this big. I started way smaller, but you can see I've got Wynn and Megan going through. And she is now coming to a fence called a tricaner. And so I'm coming through with Y. And I want to make sure I keep my hands wide. And I don't care if he drops to a trot. And then he's capable of jumping it over. And so that fence called a tricaner has a little bit of a ditch under it. And you can see I did it a couple more times, and he started to really figure it out on his own after he had followed Wynn. And then I was able to really get a good rhythm. And he came down and he pinged it really nicely. I was really pleased with how he started to figure it out. And we did this kind of throughout the whole day, where I would follow Win kind of in the beginning. And then as his confidence grew and grew, he started to be able to do things kind of on his own. So now put together two little fences here. This is more so a novice sized little house, and he just jumps it really nice. He has a fair amount of scope and power, which is a good feeling. So he jumps those pretty easily. And now heading to the water. I had spent a lot of time kind of walking in and out, spending time in the water, especially when you're first introducing them. But oftentimes I find the Mustangs figure this out pretty quickly. So now I'm going to come to one of the small, I believe that was a tadpole fence. Might have even been beginner novice. And I'm going to come now and head to the little log drop into the water, which again, I had walked in and out, and I had built up to this. So I wish I had a little bit more video for you guys, but I really enjoyed kind of splashing in. And I always want to make sure that I pat my horse and tell him, good boy, being really, really positive. And again, heading the up bank, he kind of caught me off guard there for a second. I tend to like to grab the mane and going up, and then I really make sure that my horse has their head and neck for balance. One big mistake I see people do, especially with a young horse, is they'll keep the reins really short with the bank, and then they don't quite understand it. And so now I'm going to let him jump over this little ramp and let him do it at the trot. He was pretty confident doing that. And now I'm going to keep kind of adding a little bit more. And then we don't quite get it was kind of a funny distance there, but he still had enough rein and he was able to jump it in a decent form. And so now he's got it figured out, and he jumps this out of a lovely stride. It was really fun to see him start to really understand and how to figure things out. And so now coming to another log, and now before I had attempted this, we just jumped the ditch. And I find again with the Mustangs that they're really naturally inclined with the water, ditches, and the banks. It tends to be pretty easy for them. And he jumped that really nicely, maybe a little wiggly, so I came back around again. I kept my hands nice and wide so he understood to stay straight, and then he stayed straight and popped over it, no problem. Really good. And then we came back home after a great schooling session, and you can see he kind of knows how to smile now. And he was a really good boy. And just so you guys can see, right under his jaw where his surgery was is all nice and cleaned up. So I'm super pleased with how he's coming along. There you go. Good boy. Let's see. Can you give a kiss? Give a kiss. Good. Good boy.